in number.
Is MMA a sport without rules? What are the things a fighter is not allowed to do? In this video, let's dive into the weirdest rules of MMA that simply don't add up. No abusive language. Dominic Cruz once pointed out that it's okay for him to say some not very nice things before the fight because during the fight his opponent will try to do some not very nice things to him in return. Pre-fight trash talk is completely legal, but the line is drawn as the bout begins. Sorry, Kevin Holland. While some referees don't like verbal jabs mixed in between actual jabs, most of the fans love some in-cage banter. Most trash talk is allowed, but it's arbitrarily up to the referee to determine whether or not the language is abusive. Take a look back at Nick Diaz taking on Robbie Lawler for the first time. We see Steve Mazzagatti tell Nick Diaz not to talk, which is silly because Diaz is absolutely hilarious. Spiking an opponent. With Israel Adesanya walking out like The Undertaker, it wasn't too far-fetched to expect a Tombstone piledriver to finish. But wait, the MMA rulebook actually says that that's illegal. Perhaps if Tombstone-style slams were legal, maybe MMA would have seen the Great One transition. While slams are legal, dropping an opponent directly onto their head or neck isn't. You might be wondering, what about the way Jessica Andrade won the belt from Rose Namajunas by slamming her onto the mat? And the answer is, we're Namajunas fans and we don't talk about that fight. No, but the technicality for that lies in Rose holding on to the Kimura grip. If a fighter has the option to let go of a submission to save their face, then they should. Rose prioritized her submission attempt over defending the slam, and that's why the slam was legal. No headbutts. When it comes to MMA, the rules have to be abided by. No ifs, and in this case, no headbutts. A fighter is allowed to throw a dense shin bone at high speed towards the chin of an opponent, but a headbutt isn't legal. We get it, headbutts aren't super professional looking, but come on, they can't be that much worse. Or can they? If not for making the sport look better, then headbutts are illegal because they can cause damage, which apparently isn't what elbows or kicks or punches or submissions do. A more obscure martial art to watch for the head-to-head strike lovers is Lepway. It's essentially Muay Thai, but with headbutts and no gloves. You can get your daily dose of headbutts watching that, but for MMA, we don't think that rule will ever change. 12-6 elbows. John Jones has entered the chat. Elbow strikes are legal in MMA. They're used often, and they sure cause a lot of damage. The elbow is the sharpest tool in the arsenal, which often leaves gashes on the poor recipient. The 12-6 elbow was banned from UFC competition in 2000, whether it was from the commissioners watching too many traditional martial artists breaking bricks with this technique, or they just had a traumatizing hitting their funny bone moment. Whatever the case, they didn't like this technique, and in pursuit of making the sport more pleasing to watch, it just had to go. What makes this rule stand out the most is how, to its core, it's illegal, but if you put a tiny little angle on the trajectory, boom, 12-6 elbow becomes completely legal. Timidity. Instead of talking about this, we'll just play the entire Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou fight. Just kidding, we're not trying to put you to sleep. Speaking of putting people to sleep, when fighters aren't trying to do that, the referee can actually punish them for this. Timidity comes in many ways. Fighters intentionally dropping their mouthpiece, refusing to engage, and more. This not only makes for bad fights, but it's not a great look for the sport either. Fans want to see action, so when they watch fighters just staring at each other, the whole bout becomes a total failure. However, it's much easier to tell people to throw hands than to be in there and actually be the one that's throwing hands. Fighting is terrifying, and anyone who steps in there is much braver than the spectators, so the rule against timidity is a bit weird at times. To its core, it's like saying, hey, you're really brave, but could you be a bit more brave? Regardless, we need rules like this or MMA would turn into a staring contest. But hey, you don't have to be timid, just hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the content, then please share it with your friends.